Hi there, it's Karen here from Karen Brammer Photography and Digital Art. For those of you that know me, you know that I have a huge love for vintage cameras and film cameras. And today I'm going to chat to you about the Vest Pocket Camera by Kodak. The original Vest Pocket cameras came out in 1912. This one's from 1915, and this was a real progression on from actually the ones that first came out 3 years earlier in 1912, because this was the Autographic series, and the Autographic series was a real novel invention by it was a guy called Henry J. Gaisman. I hope I'm saying his surname correctly. It's Gaisman. Anyway, what he invented was this little flap on the back of here, and what that allowed people to do, using this little metal scribe, you had a 127 film in here, and on the paper of the film it allowed you to actually scribe either a message or details about the image that you were taking. So, as I said, these were used by soldiers in the First World War, and the soldiers were able, and it was also used by nurses as well, interestingly enough. But what it allowed people to do was do documentary style photography, but they could actually document there and then on the actual film itself the date, the time, the place, the person, whatever it was they were taking a picture of. They could put that information themselves using this scribe on the back there. I mean, that's just amazing. It's over 100 years ago they were doing that. That's incredible. I mean, we've got metadata. We have to be reminded as digital photographers to make sure that when we get to New Year that we've amended our copyright from, say, 2019 to 2020. These people were fighting a major war and being able to put dates, times and other details. Now I've dropped my scribe that's been there for 100 years, and I've just dropped it. Anyway, let's pick that up, put that back on. It's actually quite unusual to get one of these with the scribe intact, so very precious. I love this, absolutely love it. So, as I mentioned, it takes 127 film. They don't make 127 film, so I can't actually physically use it, but it is in working order. So the film would go in here, this side, okay? Little button there would help this little plate come off. Do that. Oops. Yeah. Okay. And what you'll find in here is a little reel. Tiny. I mean, they're tiny. And there's a little, if I hold it in the right light, can you see that? There's a little gap. And that's where your film would actually, so there'd be two reels on either end. Obviously you load your film in, but in order to get your film so that you could create an image, the film itself would run across there. There'd be you'd get 8 images from one roll of 127 film. So just put that back in there. Yeah, so just to wind that on, and just pop this back in. Oh, I've done that wrong, haven't I? Put it in the wrong side. There we go. That's better. Yeah, so that goes in there. Okay. So to operate this camera, what you would do is just very simply, you open it up like this. It's a bellows style camera. Fantastic that all the bellows were still intact. One way that you can always check bellows on a camera is you can take the back plate off the camera, get a torch, shine it through, and then if you've got any little, they tend to have little, with bellows, if there's a problem with them, they tend to have little pinholes. So by shining a torch, you can see, and if there's any little, you can see the light of the torch, you know that the bellows are not intact. So that's quite a simple way to check them. So to operate this, very simple, is you would, light goes in through this bit here. There's a mirror, and you've got a little viewing point there. So yeah, just about see that? Yeah. Okay, so if you want to take a portrait style, you would hold it that way. The really cool thing about this is that flips over. So if you want to take it landscape style, you're still looking through there. Your image will be upside down. It will be the wrong way around to what you expect it to look because it's being reflected back to you. But simply you do that, and then you've just got your shutter there. Okay, so that's really simple operation. And then you'd adjust your aperture. So you've got a T setting, which would give you long exposure. You've got your B setting, which is similar to your bulb setting that you'd get on a digital camera, and that just allows the camera shutter to stay open for longer. And I think you've got other settings like 125 and 150. Yeah, and so you can change. You've got aperture blades in there, they're all working. Just don't think you'll be able to pick that up off my IMAX camera to see that, but yeah, there's little blades in there that, removing that, yeah, just about see it. You should have been able to just see something then. So that's how that worked. They've got a little lever here, and if there was a level, you know, something level that they could lean that, balance that on, or sit that on, you know, that made it a bit sturdy. You didn't use a tripod for one of these. Yeah, so that's it. I mean, it's very simple to use. It was a really, really popular camera. Nearly 2 million of these sold. They sold for $6 US, which was equivalent to £1 10 shillings English money. Yeah, and World War One became one of the most documented wars because of this camera. And what you got was a real personal insight into wars. So instead of having your documentary photographers that, you know, that were in the armed forces, this was people's personal take on the war. So what was important to the soldiers, you know, right down there, I mean, in the trenches, I mean, they were in appalling conditions. We all know what happened, it was dreadful. But they documented a lot of the war. Nurses that were out there, they also did the same. The really sad thing is that a lot of these were really enthusiastic amateur photographers, and so when they came back, or if they came back from the war, they would have spent ages and ages putting these lovely, you know, prints together in these fantastic photograph albums. But sadly, different generations haven't always appreciated stuff, and quite often you'll have come across a heap of old pictures in an old album, not realised the historical value or the importance to that particular person. And, you know, house clearances, or you might find them at an old flea market, antique market. You just don't, you know, they can turn up anywhere. But a lot of them just went into landfill, which is tragic because you lost that history and that personal insight. But I think, you know, what an incredible thing this was back in its day. It was the first compact of its day. It was amazing, and it just opened up the world to photography. You know, it really it changed things for so many people because it was a cheap and easy option for people to use. The fact that you could document details on it, it became almost like your Instagram or your Facebook back, you know, over 100 years ago. Hope you've enjoyed that. If there's any questions that you'd like to come back. One thing before I forget, there's a really good book if you want to find out more about the Vest Pocket camera. It's a book by him, this guy, and it's Vest Pocket Kodak and the First World War, and it's by a guy called John Cooksey. Great book, really gives you a lot of history, not only about the camera but the war as well, and it's just one of those things, you know, we're so fortunate nowadays that we enjoy the freedom that we've got, because so many other people sacrifice so much for us, and you know, we are very, I look back at these and I feel very, very humble that we've got the opportunities that we have nowadays because people gave up their lives for us, and you know, that has to be appreciated. So I hope you found this talk useful. If I waffled a bit, I'm sorry about that. I just get carried away because I'm really enthusiastic about this sort of thing. Okay, many thanks. Cheers. Bye bye.